Good evening, Lancers of Runeterra community. This is the second Lancers Legends Runeterra tournament, and I am here with SojournerKai. A lot of the games
Hello.
have been going on so far. For any players who are currently participating, I apologize for any technical difficulties. We will work through them as we go through the tournament. Kai, we had some predictions about what kind of decks that we were going to see in today's tournament, and honestly,
Yep.
it's not too much different from the first tournament that we hosted, and even other tournaments that are currently going on in the community. Talk to me about these lineups.
Well, yeah, when you look over at the spreadsheet that we have for all of the lineups, I predicted that this would happen, but let me talk about what we see first, and then I'll go into my clairvoyance that I had earlier today. At the very top, the most popular deck is Ashe LeBlanc. This is something that we see really frequently because of how Ashe LeBlanc very effectively can counter, if not go toe-to-toe with a lot of these big, wide board strategies that we've been seeing recently. For example, Ashe LeBlanc, very good into anything that has Demacia, really good into Aatrox lists, and also can hold its own up against Leona Samira in some ways by being able to have units out early and then having the Frostbite that's then able to counteract any sort of damage that the deck might have itself. So
Definitely.
not at all surprised to see that deck at the top here. And right at its heels is Fizz Samira. This is a deck that is still relatively strong, a great tournament staple, because you can't really build 3 decks to face Fizz Samira. So either your opponent has to ban it, or they have to try and play into it and take like a 40-60 in some situations. So those are the top 2 and what I really heavily expected to see. And oh, look where we are.
Samira.
Vrado running the Ashe LeBlanc and Raravin bringing the Fizz Samira. So yeah, what do you make of this matchup? Because there are stats that say things, but then there are also different opinions you can have as well.
Most definitely. Like, I've definitely heard a few opinions say that it's really the Fizz Samira that takes over the Ashe LeBlanc, given that, I mean, you have these elusives, you have these units that can be buffed past Frostbites, right? Because you can't really preemptively Frostbite the Fizz Samira, like, especially if Shelly's on board, giving those other elusive units stats. But I also want to say that there are games in which Fizz Samira can brick, right? If you maybe have too many of your high-cost units, you don't really have your spells, you're missing your champions. It's like, okay, I don't really have anything that I can play, and we're kind of seeing that here, right? Vrado already has a challenger unit along with Ashe and a 5/6 ready to go and swing, and we already see we're about to trade into the 1/5 elusive. So I was looking again. The stats online show that this can go either way. It's kind of like, I think a 50, like a 50-ish for Fizz Samira, and then like a 40 something for Ashe LeBlanc, I want to say. But I don't know. I think yeah, I think it's around there. I mean, mind you, we have seen some games where Fizz Samira really is just looking to kill you in kind of just one turn, right? They get the Shelly combo down, they buff their elusives, they have Samira on board, they swing multiple times back to back. So if Raravin is able to find that Shelly, get it on board, and get maybe the combo going, I think we might be able to take this as a victory. But I don't know. Right now it's looking rough because it's something that to know in Ashe LeBlanc, right? They do run the Reckoning, and the Reckoning is a card that kills all cards that are under 4 power, right?
Raravin has no idea he just played into it either.
No idea. We have double. And there it goes. We're about to see it come down. Look at that. Now, mind you, keep in mind, although Fizz does stop spells, Fizz only stops spells that targets Fizz specifically. If it's an AoE spell like Caustic Rift, for example, or the Reckoning, it's Fizz would still die. And the only way to save it, as you see with Raravin, is to buff it up to 5. And there we go. We see Brill still come down, making that a 0. Say goodbye to the board.
Absolutely backbreaking. Letting Noxus have a Ruination that's especially effective in this kind of meta right now, with Fizz Samira being the first really strong deck that came out the gates at the start of this whole rotation season, I guess you could say. The issue that it immediately had was, oh, it dies to Caustic Rift. Oh, it dies to Reckoning. And a lot of these sort of board wipe strategies became more viable. I mean, Avalanche never really stayed that viable, but it is an idea that I had at one point. ICL Archer here completely punishes the development of the Chum the Waters as well, and it reduces the chances of this Ashe going down, and this open swing is going to be lethal. Yeah, Raravin knows that it's going to be lethal. Didn't block earlier with the Burblefish. That was the 0-1 because he wanted to save more damage for the elusive swing. But the Reckoning into that Brittle Steel brought about a very swift defeat. And that is an instance where we see that 52-48, which is basically like you sneeze too hard and it looks like a 50-50. And that is where the 50-50 comes in. It's not so much does this deck overpower this one, it's more of a set of, hey, does this deck have its combo pieces? And if Fizz Samira has its combo pieces, it runs you over. If Ash LeBlanc has those combo pieces and Fizz Samira can't set itself up, we see that Reckoning is used to maximum efficiency, and there's literally nothing that Raravin could do in that situation.
Yeah, and there are many moments, right, where, you know, even myself facing a Fizz Samira player, like, I understand that, like, this is a combo-centric deck. If they don't get their pieces, there is a possibility to steal a victory, but there are times where you really need to respect that combo. Because, yes, they can maybe, they're allowed to pass for 3 turns, right? You don't necessarily have to play anything. You can just keep passing, allow you to, so, you know, gather some cards up so you can maybe have some answers to other spells and things like that. And here, we're already going to see a mirror match. Now, kind of, about the mirror match in Fizz Samira, I want to say that maybe Samira is probably top priority, given that she can give Challenger. You can start maybe picking off units off the board. What are your thoughts?
Well, it all kind of depends on the tech cards that both of these players are bringing here. I noticed that there's a slight variation in the list that vrado and Raravin are bringing. For example, Raravin, excuse me, has decided to bring 2 copies of Jagged Butcher to get himself more of those plunder procs available. And so you have that Inferno churning cards out more often. You have more stats on board that you can also easily block with. A 3/3 can block things with Brash, can block Fearsomes, and all these sorts of things. There's a lot of ways to activate it. On the other hand, vrado is running Noxian Fervor. They have 1 copy of it for that little bit of overhead on it. They are running Noxian Tellstones instead of Elixir of Wrath, which Raravin has. And here's the real kicker. At the top end of Vrado's deck, they have 3 copies of Powder Frickin' Pandemonium.
And we've seen the kind of damage that card does, right? All you need to do, truth be told, is really, what, get maybe 4 or 5 plunder procs, and suddenly you have a game-ending spell that you can play, right? Each monkey, even if it doesn't get to strike, is already dealing 1 damage on death. If you manage to get in that chip elusive damage earlier on in the game, that could very well be lethal for your opponent.
Yeah, very easily. All the chip damage really matters, especially when you're in this kind of mirror matchup. Personally, I think that Powder Pandemonium, if vrado is ever able to find it later in the game, is going to be the ultimate game winner here. Swindle also finds Prize Fight Shelly and Swindle again, so you can swindle into Swindle, which is what vrado is going to do. But Raravin swindles back. He sees the swindle. He sees the Infernus.
Like, you know what? I'm gonna swindle your swindle. Don't you dare swindle me back. Don't swindle backs.
No.
This
Swiper, no swipey.
The swiper, no swipey. This is so silly. But I mean, hey, this is the state of a mirror match. There are many mirror matches in Legends of Runeterra that are just, they're just to face, right?
Yeah.
I'm not sure if this is one of them. I want to say that, I guess maybe in my humble opinion, that personally, I don't like facing a darkness mirror. We've seen it in other streams, such as the Mystic Shot tournament, where all it really takes is for one of the darkest players to get up to 4. And then in terms of, let's say, if we're talking more so this meta, probably one of the more painstaking mirrors is the Karma set mirror, right? Both players just simply need to make it to the 10, and it's like, we're kind of engaging in a pass fast.
No problem.
Yeah, that we are. Actually, that was something that I wrote down on my notes here to bring up. Which do you think is the worst mirror matchup? Set Karma versus Set Karma, or Seraphine BB lists?
Oh God, Seraphine BB.
Yeah.
I mean, oh man, how do you? I guess I want to say Karma. Because at least with Seraphine BB, there's a way to end the game at burst speed. which I don't like saying out loud. But I mean, they have warning shot, right? Like the game is gonna end, but at least with a karma set deck, like y'all are just kind of going back and forth, you know, waiting for each other to get your combo pieces, whether it be karma and set, to get the obliteration going. At that rate, like no one's hitting the nexus. And with Ionia, there's just so many stall cards between recalls, between stuns.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And you have all the healing with the bartender as well. Also, what's happening on on screen right now is kind of hilarious because Raravin was able to get their Samira going a little bit earlier. They got that +1/+1 bonus. Both players had extra copies of All Out in hand, but since Raravin is now at 7 HP with his Samira, Vrado's not able to swing back.
Oh,
he gets the surrender.
Dang, 3.
I mean, there really wasn't anything. Once you have that Samira leveled, that's the combo piece that Raravin needs to go ahead and push through for a win there. And that is something that Vrado wasn't able to properly answer to. Once they lost their Samira, they knew, I have lost my combo piece. I have nothing else to go off of. And that is where that mirror matchup comes in. It's a matter that time of, hey, do you win this match earlier than I do? We were talking about Powder Pandemonium, but we didn't have a chance to see it because that was turn 4.
Yeah, like it is turn 4. But like you got to take in consideration, right? And I think this has been a conversation in the community. I haven't been, you know, very in touch with this specific conversation per se, but the timer. Right, the timer in Legends of Runeterra is a resource, and a resource that you need to keep in mind. So in a situation, you know, like Vrado was in, where it's like, hey, you know, I'm about to lose this piece. I already see that I'm kind of in a really losing position. I don't think there's really any way that I'm gonna get out. I'm gonna go ahead, hit that surrender button. Let's go on to the next game where I can allow myself more time to work with.
Yeah, running down the clock. Well, actually just kind of knowing, I say running down the clock, but actually Ruben Zoo recently noted that intentionally running the clock down with intent of winning on time is actually against the rules or the terms of service, or however they wanted. But that was put out recently. I don't know if you saw that statement. That
yeah, I saw they were talking about that.
Crazy, but like I totally understand it. Pirouette's going to be a really big back-breaking hit here, by the way. You ping the 5/1, the Hextech Rocket Blaster, I believe, and then stun the... Oh, okay, actually, we're just going to stun the Rocket Blaster. We're not going to try to remove it.
Really?
I would try to remove that Rocket Blaster and stun the Force Chief, personally. You avoid the damage, you avoid the mana refill.
You avoid the damage. I can see the reason for it, so because you do want to proc your plunder, right? We only have really any draw spells, and we have our, you know, our elusive card in hand. But aside from that, that's kind of it. So maybe taking this 3 damage, allowing the mana to go through is okay. We'll get to Swindle, we'll get to see what's in our opponent's hand, and we get to put a unit on the board. Ooh, okay, goes for the draw.
Goes with the draw. No, that's understandable. Trying to just see what Raravin wants to do. Obviously wants to attack. No mana left. You have a board of 3 attack. Might as well take your damage where you can get it.
Look at this!
Here's the copy of Parlay off of Father Fury. This is not a main deck card, by the way.
It is not. We got that. Okay. Look at that RNG. Ooh, saves it. Okay. I like... notice that Vrado did want to go for the Parlay immediately upon getting it, but it is better to wait till the next round so that you can proc a new plunder and then continue to contribute to that Powder Pandemonium.
Father Fury still proving to be one of the best cards out of this expansion. In a lot of the Bilgewater lists, not even remotely related to Samira or anything to do with plunder, Father Fury has been showing up. In fact, on the other side of the bracket, I saw samsans, who is probably high as a kite, because it is 420, happy blazing day, whatever you want, but is bringing championless Bilgewater Targon, which is basically Zoe Nami without Zoe or Nami. And Father Fury is included in that list because of the way that it's just a good card. It's a 2/1 elusive that has a tune that gets you a free spell. Like, it is effectively a better but slightly less consistent Coral Creatures overall. And I'm sure that Vrado is very happy for it, but his board is suffering now. 2 Force Chiefs and the Wrench Bot slamming in for 5 more damage. Going down on HP against Heimer Jace, by the way, is extremely dangerous. You can get burst out. We've seen it happen before.
We really have seen it happen, right? Because you have to remember, in Jace Heimer, what are we working with the top deck? One, we're working with Shock Blast, right? If Jace is on board, or even if we have just the Shock Blast in hand, we're able to hit the Nexus for 3. But mind you, the scarier card is Albus Pharaohs. The entire game we are running and playing 6-cost cards. That's going to contribute to Albus Pharaohs, who's going to be able to ping the Nexus for X amount of times that you've cast 6-card spells, do this much damage to the Nexus. So to plus be 3. On 10, wait, plus 3?
Yeah. Albus Pharaohs does 3 damage at base.
At base, okay. So and then it adds 1, right?
Yeah. So
okay.
So every time you add on, like, it's not just every 6 mana spell you cast, by the way. It is every 6 mana spell that you cast plus 3. Just so right now, as it stands, now Raravin had the option of trying to use the formula to find a ping spell, but decide not to because you want to play the Heimer this turn. But you have to think that every time that there's a 6 mana spell, that is now plus 1 to that effect at a base level of 3. Pharaohs is already guaranteed to hit you for 4. 6 HP, gosh. If you have a Jace on board, kills you with Shock Blast. So you're already at a really big disadvantage here. However, Vrado is finding some really good combo pieces right now. Verbal Fish is on board. You have double Stylish Shot.
Wow. But look at this. Remember, Heimer's on board. Anytime you play a 6-cost spell, it's going to give you an elusive. That has the means of blocking. And that's something that you don't see in other decks, right? Ash LeBlanc does not have elusive. It has challengers, it has frostbites, but it does not have the elusive to block. And here we're going to see the pirouette get cashed in.
Huge value on the pirouette. It's not even getting the kill. You just want the damage to face. Like, we're stunning the
this is lethal
floor breaker. This is lethal already.
Look at this.
Fast enough.
Wow, Samira in hand, didn't even need to play her. All we really needed was to get our elusives on board paired with Shelly. And the card generation that came from Father Fury and the Burbling Fish, it was exactly what we needed. We had 3 mana to work with, and that's all we needed. Wow.
That's rough.
Game 3 goes to Vrado.
Game 3 does go to Vrado. Finding those combo pieces. I mean, that is just exactly showcasing what Fizz Samira likes to do so very often, which is close out those games quickly with those elusive units. You see Shelly be an incredibly effective champion, unit inside of these decks that can play a lot of spells early. I mean, Shelly has been a staple ever since TF Nami was really one of the most meta decks or meta decks in the game, because of the way that it just, you get Shelly on 5, you have Nami on 3 if you're leveling her. Like pre-nerf Nami, you could get her leveled on 3 or 4. So you perfectly curve into these units. Then Nami would give you +2/+1 every time you cast a spell.
No, because it was ridiculous. Like man. Let me tell you, right? I believe I believe next week is going to be a balance patch, if I'm correct. It's either a balance patch or it's going to be a what do they call it? I guess like an expansion. Like a
rotation patch.
Rotation.
Oh no! What do they call it? Yeah, they have like some term for it where they're like, "Hey, we're gonna variety patch." Was that what
variety? There you go. It's a variety patch. So we're gonna. I do believe it's a balance patch. I'm curious. What are some of the nerfs after playing in the mana, seeing the mana through tournaments? What are some nerfs do you think are gonna happen, if any at all?
Well, one nerf that I would probably like to see, and I think I stole this from Raravin. Raravin might have tweeted this, but I'm not sure. So because I'm not sure, I'm going to claim this is my own idea. But I think Samira should only create a flare on strike.
Okay.
That is like one big nerf that I would like to see. Because right now, when Samira is played, if you don't spend your mana on mana 1, you can then use the flare to challenge a unit and kill anything with 2 HP. So long as there's no buff cards, which if you're playing against Ash LeBlanc, there's possibility of an Iron Elixir, but that's besides the point.
Could help. Iron Elixir, they got options.
Yeah. And when Samira is played right now, if she is played at a later turn, and then you use the flare for 1 mana to then ping the Nexus, and then you combo into Plunder right away, There's no risk being involved. You just get that for free, and you don't even have to attack to just set up this absolutely massive combo across the deck. I think
Mm-hmm.
Samira getting it on strike plays a little bit better into the flavor. For one, like you're a little bit of a daredevil, has to go in to try and do something.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
then
I like that.
also
Mm-hmm.
doesn't have this thing of like, I am guaranteed this 1 damage to Nexus if I play this 2 mana card. So that's like one big nerf I would like to see. Beyond
I can
that,
see it.
I don't know, Shelly maybe activating after 3 spells or once per turn,
I
like to
was thinking
slow
that earlier
down
today.
that
I
a
was
little
thinking
bit.
that with Shelly, we can do maybe once per turn. Because if anything, Shelly has been a staple in what maybe all of the elusive decks, except the Zoe Timo one, which was Targon Bandle City.
Yeah.
Other than that, I think any elusive deck that involved Nami, that involved Samira, that involved Fizz, had Shelly in it and
Yeah.
Burblefish. But to be honest, I don't even think it's really the Burblefish that is the problem, right? It is the Shelly. Shelly's being able to buff your board consistently, not just once, but it's giving you a 1/1 every time you play 2 spells. And in a deck that has so many 1-cost spells, sometimes even free spells, right?
Mhm.
That is for Samira. If you get the right cards, get the right card creations, the RNG off of Father Fury or Burblefish, you can pretty consistently cast that and meet that requirement so that you can buff these elusive spores and go in for a single swing. We just saw that in the last game with Vrado, right? We had 3 units, 3, and
Yeah.
Raravin's HP was what, like at 12?
9. It was at 9. He was
Yeah, it
taking
was.
12.
Yeah, it was taking 12. It's it's a strong card, so I wouldn't be surprised if we see a Shelly nerf.
Yeah. Personally, I would see it go up to 3 spells instead of just 2.
True.
And
Three
that
spells
way
goes
you
with it.
still have the same level of payoff. You're like, okay,
Mm-hmm.
you are dumping your entire hand to try and get this unit to activate. And you still have the same level of activation. You still have the same stats. It's just worse. It's just slower. Because, like you said, it has been a staple in a lot of things. Aside from that Zoe Timo deck, which, for those of you who don't remember what that deck was, I'm happy for you, for one. For
It
two,
was toxic.
Zoe
That thing
Timo
was
was
beating people
toxic.
up. It was beating people up.
That was a deck that ran at the highest cost card that it ran was the Sudden Surge and the Wandering Shepherd. And so what you do is you just play all these really low to the ground elusive units that included, I think Winged Messenger was in there as well, because the
I think
Targon
some
elusive card.
variants
And
had
then you
it.
had Esmus, you had Timo, you had Zoe, and then basically the rest of it was just buff spells, things to protect your
Mm-hmm.
units and things to make
Mm-hmm.
sure that they just did maximum amounts of damage. So by the time that you reach turn 5, much like this Fizz Samira deck is being able to rush you down with a bunch of elusive stats, you just died to stats. You died to something you couldn't block.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, what were its counters? I want to say, I mean, given that this was during the Eternal format, I want to say control, like Shadow Owl's control. I believe actually, not for nothing, I think we saw like the rise of Trundle Tryndamere again because they were able to either out ramp it so they
Yeah.
can completely wipe it with She Who Wanders, with She Who Wanders being able to obliterate all cards that are under 4 power, or Avalanche, Withering Whale, Vile Feast. These are cards that are no longer options in standard mode, or some of them are in options in standard mode, like Vile Feast. We still have Avalanche, but Throw You at Shadow Owl's packages just isn't as strong anymore, especially now that the KDA cards have been rotated out along with, one of their prime champions, which was Trundle, right? So now, I mean, the only thing that we really have to look for is really going towards Piltover, which is why we see, Seraphine coming through, or even Karma coming through with these Caustic Rift decks, right? Now, mind you, I think Caustic Rift is probably its strongest in a BB deck, because at least with the Mirai, you are able to buff it up with the kegs, and that can deal with a deck like Solar Flare, right? Solar Flare being the Samira Leona variant of that kind of aggro, given that deck has a little beefier side when it comes to HP units.
Yeah, and that honestly is the reason why I think that Samira Leona right now is the best deck in the format in ranked, because it is aggressive. It beats out a lot of these control decks by being way too wide with way too many stats for them to handle. And it also beats out sometimes Fizz Samira or goes even with them because of the way that Fizz Samira, being so elusive focused and wanting to chip in with all that elusive damage, it just it doesn't want to block. It doesn't really
It does
want to try
not
and
at
block a
all.
lot of these larger units. But then when these larger units are coming through and being like, hey, turn 5, you're all stunned. Hey, I have this big challenger unit in the form of Leona on board. And also this Sun Guardian is absolutely massive. And also all of my other units are just ridiculously good stats because that is what Daybreak has become. People have realized that it's a really good archetype for stats. When you have all these things kind of converge into one deck all at once, that then becomes a very effective game plan for rushing down a lot of these different decks. Now, when I'm looking at my stat notes here, because I have written down for Leona Samira, its best matchups, funny enough, is into Lurk, Karma Set, and
Right.
Quinn Gwen. It beats Lurk 80% of the time. It is a 4-1 victory
Wow.
over Lurk. And it makes total sense, right? Like Lurk needs to attack consistently in order to get its units buffed up to a certain level of stats to then be able to trade into Leona Samira units. But when Leona Samira units are coming out, like you have Solari Soldier that can do 3 damage, that trades into pretty much anything at turn 1. When you have the 3/6 Solari Shield Bearer, I had to delay a little bit there, but Solari Shield Bearer, which is a 3/6 when it hits Daybreak, that can then block pretty much anything on its turn that it's played.
Yeah.
Lurk isn't allowed to keep its board, not because it's getting removed by Piltover and Zon, which has historically been a problem for Lurk, but because the stats that it is facing up against are already bigger than what Lurk can do in the early game, and it's given no space to operate in.
Absolutely no space. I mean, the amount of decks that that Leona can just lock down. What really can you do against it, right? It's kind of like that weird aggro kind of mid-rangey deck that like just beats the other mid-range decks, right? Like if I'm running Aatrox or Alawi, I have these really big units that want to go in for a swing, and then Leona's just like, nah, I'm good. You can just stay put right where you at. And the funny thing enough, I feel like Daybreak wasn't as popular back in the day, right? Before we got a unit such as Sunhawk, right? Sure, you were able to get your stuns going, but a lot of the other cards kind of felt clunky. They were a little bit high cost. You didn't really have a real way to end the game. But now with that combo, right? You have Ravun on build. You have Leona. You play Sunhawk, double stun. I mean, play any of the one drop, another stun. If you have the Leona spell, just activate it on the Sunhawk, and that's what you can get 4 stuns. 4
Yep.
stuns. Like, it's ridiculous. But I mean, hey, when it comes to that deck, you have to either what beats it? Hold up, because what does beat it? Because I feel like that deck feels unbeatable, even though I know it's not. Like, do you have to be faster than it? Do you just have to have the removal like Shadow Isles? What are your thoughts on how to beat it?
Well, I'm happy you asked because I have some stats here as well. So what I did was I went through each of the top, what did I write here? Top 6 most popular decks on ranked, and I went through their win rate, their play rate, and then also the top 3 decks that they beat and the top 3 decks that they lose to. Now, I didn't take the exact top deck that they lose to because sometimes it was 50 games of Nora that they lost to on some 30% win rate. And you're like, that's not a stat. That's just like a freak coincidence at this point. Nora, by the way, is a broad main deck that uses Bandle City and Pokestick instead of the other things. But point is, Leona Samira's worst matchups in terms of decks that I expected to see here tonight at the tournament are Heimer Jace at a 42% win rate.
Okay.
That's right. Ash LeBlanc at a 46% win rate because, if you don't have stats, you can't really swing with them.
Yeah.
And then finally, Aatrox with Demacia, a much more consistent rallying region that when Sunbreak, when Solar Flare plays its Leona on turn 5, you respond with Aatrox on turn 6. If you don't have the specific piece in the form of Ravun, the Daylight Spear, then this Aatrox is able to block how it wants. It's able to then trade into whatever it wants, however it feels like, especially with a lot of those Darken cards. The Darken cards giving a lot of really good stats for those units to block into. And so therefore, Leona Samira, it trades evenly somewhat up until a certain point with this deck. And that's where its game plan falls apart, is when something can go toe to toe with it. Does it always? Not always, but 46%, it's pretty close to 50-50, and that's still a really good stat line.
Yeah.
Like, your worst
Definitely
deck,
a good
consistent deck being a 45% win rate is insanity. That's like peak plunder GP Sejuani numbers. Like, yeah, you just bring it because there's a really flat matchup
I
table, and
mean,
it beats everything
shoot, it
else.
was. It really was a flat matchup table, and it's kind of similar with this deck. I mean, I guess like in terms of Aatrox, the only thing that can really match Aatrox is what Sun Guardian. But you have to make sure that you have Sun Guardian, that you get it buffed up to the point that it can, go toe to toe with Aatrox. But other than that, it's like, what do you do? And I think something else to note in the Demacian variants, like whether it be Demacia Alawi J4 or Demacian Aatrox Vayne, is that despite stuns, those units can still attack. All we need is Cataclysm. All we need is the Vayne Tumble, and we're still going in. So if you need that Aatrox to give you like that little bit of extra heal, why not? Go ahead and go for it. If you're not, there's nothing else that's really any bigger than you. So as long as you're able to just maintain that health pool to the best of your ability, you very well might come up on top, especially once you're able to get World Ender down.
Yeah. We are sorry that we're taking so long to get into the next match. We've been having some technical difficulties and on the back end, so just trying to see where our matches are, making sure that everything's lined up perfectly for the stream itself. And huge thanks as well to our people who are working in the background, Orange Flame and Porter. Really do appreciate the work that you guys are doing as TOs for us as well, so that we can focus on our casting. But in the meantime, we did see Fizz Samira absolutely just blitz people down. There are some specific decks that can beat Fizz Samira consistently, but the problem is that the deck that I like to play against Fizz Samira also just like completely falls flat on its face against every other kind of deck in the format, and that deck specifically is Caitlyn Annie with Broadmane. Now, this is similar to BB, right? Where you have the big kegs, but instead of having the kegs, you now have flash bombs combined with the finisher of Lord Broadmane. There's just so much AoE removal that Fizz Samira is not allowed to keep a board intact. But then Annie just loses to everything else. It flat out does not do well.
Yeah, it does not. It does not. And the thing is, there's a lot of the Demacian variants running around, because the Demacian variants are really good against Karma Set. Karma Set does not want to have to spend more than 1 or 2 cards to have to deal with whatever it has to deal with. And if you're playing one of the Demacian variants that has these values, that has these cataclysms, or even, I mean, I guess more importantly, it has the scouts, it's like, eep, what do I do in this case? Now, I believe Kai might be having some technical difficulties. We're going to double check real quick. We do have some, so we'll be right back with that. I want to thank everybody who was watching. We really appreciate you for coming. The next match will be coming up soon. The Portray, if you can, could you take us to a quick break? All right, and we're back.
Hi.
Hello, everyone. I had to work out some little technical difficulties, but we're all set, and we have our next match ready. It is going to be Croc AI versus HanterArch. Let's run you through the decks real quick. So Croc AI is bringing Vayne Aatrox Quinn being a one-of. We have Maokai Nautilus, a sea monster favorite, deep favorite. We know all the deep players out there to join. And we have Karma Set. However, this isn't the Piltover version. This is the Targonian version of the deck. And then for HanterArch, we have Heimerdinger Jace, Senna Veigar. I love me some Darkness, some old school Darkness with Senna. I like. Now check this out. This is a bit of a spice. Galio Udyr. They're running one of Strength and 2 Buried in Ice as their top end finishers, along with Gorlif the Unscalable. So we might see some nice decks here. Right now, we are looking into Croc AI playing Karma Set, the Targonian version, into Jace Heimerdinger. Matchup, Kai, because I feel like, you know, Ionia has always had a great history fighting control.
Yeah, I'd say that as far as conclusions go, this is pretty foregone for the Karma Set. I don't know exactly. Yeah, looking over at the Karma Set that is the Piltover variation, Heimer Jace is listed as one of its best matchups at a 61% win rate, specifically for the Karma Set side. Now, I don't know how exactly that changes for the Targon variant, because I know the Targon variant is generally considered a little bit weaker, but you can still bring a lot of the same ideas. You replace, in this case, you don't bring Hex Obliterator, and instead you have Sunburst. Goodbye, Jace.
He's gone.
He's out of here. He hits the board, but he's gone. And even though Hunter had a really good swing, I don't know if you saw, because I think we were on the caster screen still, but over on my second monitor, I saw that HanterArch had the curve of, I think it was a production surge, and they also had another unit on board, and so they were swinging for a pretty significant amount of damage. Brought Croc AI down to 10 HP. And now Croc AI, because of the cards that they're able to bring, has now brought themselves back up to 14. And they'll just keep delaying and keep stalling and keep this Jace Heimer board off of their back. Croc AI's attack turn right now, too. So that trade that they had with the Mystic Shot going in for the Sunburst on that turn specifically really goes into Croc AI's favor. Until now, the triple find of the Wrench Bot,
wow,
combined with 13 damage.
13 whole damage. Like, you've talked to me about the Heimer Jace before. It's a mid-range deck. It's an aggro deck. It's a control deck. It just has so many tools to kind of mold into what it needs to be. And the issue is with the Karma Set variant, when you're running Targon, you no longer have access to spells like Caustic Rift, you know, from Piltover, or the Mystic Shots even. Now you need to figure out some blockers and be able to, you know, deal with a board that comes out like this. And look, we're already about to see a Jace come out leveled.
Jace coming out leveled off the back of that formula is so crucial for Hunter here. And one of the things, Heimer Jace has a very flexible game plan. You can shift gears and try to be any sort of thing that you want to be. You want to be a burn deck when you grow up? That's great. You can go ahead and do whatever you want, Heimer Jace. And that is what it does. That is, in some ways, what it can do when it has Jace leveled up on board. But the other thing that it does is it tries to mimic, as seeing right now, it tries to mimic the strategies of those Leona Samira decks that Karma Set sometimes has a lot of trouble going up against. In fact, the 33% win rate, for those of you who want to know the statistic on that, against Leona Samira is what Karma Set is currently running. And so when Jace Heimer can get these really wide statted boards, that is generally pretty difficult for the deck to handle, you start running into issues like this, where this board is swinging for so much damage right now. Well, I mean, not a lot right now, because we used the mana to draw the formula and refilled our mana twice. I think it might have been a slight misplay from Hunter, but might have been trying to avoid a deny or a mass recall or something, but personally I would have gone for the acceleration gate there just to get that board out. Oh, and here's Adaptatron, by the way. That little one drop there.
Wait, I now have a question. If you have Adaptatron on board and you use the acceleration gate, is that going, like, does every other bot that gets the keyword go onto Adaptatron?
Oh, they didn't have attack token. What am I saying? No. I think it only goes off of a summon.
Okay, so only a summon.
When you summon another turret, or when you summon another unit here, it will share the keywords that it currently has.
Oh gosh, look at this board. We have Brash, Fearsome, actually double Brash, 1 Fury, 2 Fearsomes. I mean, we do have our Fearsome blocker, so that's fine, but hold on, can we block all of this? I think we can. It's a bit tricky.
We'll be fine. It is a bit tricky. Oh, hey, there's a Hush in hand. That'll come in.
I mean, that's
now.
That's clutch.
Remember, Karma has a card that just says, "Hey, take a free turn." In case y'all forgot, there it is. So I apologize. I was saying something about HanterArch, but I didn't realize that they didn't have the attack token. I should have been paying attention to that. So that's my mistake. But if they had the attack token that last turn, it would have been good. The double draw for Formula was the right call because it gives you so many more options. You're at 1 HP!
Look at this!
Oh, man. 1 HP is scary. That is a very scary place to be.
Oh my gosh, do we...
Against Piper Jace.
Line starts here.
What do we do?
I mean, you do have... No, you're fine, actually.
Yeah,
1 HP is scary.
It's
not so scary when you have Star Shaping with the Karma on board. So you're actually 11 HP. Did you think that you did all of that damage, Heimer Jace? No, you didn't. You can take that back. In fact, you can take this... Well, I mean, a Vengeance is going to be something, but it's not going to be quite
we can actually save Karma here right now.
Yeah, we can.
Okay, so we go ahead, save it, play her. That's going to give us 4 coins. That refills 8 mana. We're about to have a whole turn reset.
You have a whole turn reset.
Wow. I mean, and this is... Wow, look at this. Look at this. Not just kill the Jace, but obliterate him. And this is why, right? If you're watching any of the other streamers that are online, or you're watching these other tournaments, you see that a lot of players are saying, you know, if you're gonna go into these tournaments, you need to take in consideration that either A, you need to focus Fisamira, or B, focus Karma Set. And you see the exact reason right now why people are saying, hey, if you see Karma Set, you either A, need to make sure that your lineup can beat it, or you need to ban it. Do not let that individual play it. Because at the end of the day, once you get this combo rolling, especially with the coins, you're going to be able to reset your turn, you know, over and over again, as long as you're always able to get the coins. And we saw it just there. We managed to do everything we need to do first off. Then we managed to save our Karma, play her again, and then reset our deck. Look at this. 13 mana. We're right back where we started.
Ridiculous. Oh my gosh, Blinded Mystic is just a kick in the teeth.
I like the Blinded Mystic tech though, because there are, you know, this is actually a 2 in the deck, and that can do really well into these elusive variants, or any of the decks that really run like units that have a lot of keywords. But especially elusives, you want to make sure that those elusives are just, you know, not able to swing with them.
Golly day, Star Shaping with Karma on board. Scourge, Cosmic Inspiration, and Supernova are found off of the first one.
Wow. Is there any way out of this? I think we would need to
Living Legends.
Because we still got to swing.
Well, even if you Vengeance, you're still having to hope that you're not getting hit with a Deny at the end of it. Or a Recall, or a, you know, etc, etc, etc.
Yeah.
We do have the Vengeance here to prevent some damage. Funny enough, not taking lethal right now. But you can also find quite a bit. Double Karma written in stars will be played.
Oh my god.
Is this where you enter, as they say, your Joker moment? Is this the part where you just lose your mind?
Oh my, I mean, what do? We have to essentially figure out, you know, what, do we get Heimer on board or just focus on keeping our removal up? Because like we're dealing with Targon, right? We may not have seen Targon in this meta as frequent, but they are known for their game enders, right? You cast these Celestial cards like Living Legend, you find some answers, and suddenly you have what, a 10/10 on board that's giving everything overwhelm? And at that rate, I mean, even with this deck specifically, we don't really need to. We just need to be able to run these cards that are gonna continuously give us mana so that we can get more obliterates for set.
Why don't you sit this one out?
Look at this.
Living Legends is a 10 mana card, by the way, so that'll easily count towards the set obliterate.
Ooh, Cosmic.
HanterArch is putting up a fight, but it's, man, at this point he's just trying to punch water. You're just going back and fighting a river, right? Like, oh man, I had my favorite toy boat go wash down the river the other day. I'm gonna go fight the river now. I'm gonna go punch it real fast.
Please.
Vengeance is thrown out here, keeping Croc AI away from getting lethal, but only by 1. 1 HP is not too far away, because once you play the set Obliterate card, it does 1 damage to everything on the enemy side. Now, Piercing Darkness will bring HanterArch back up to 6 HP, but we're still, I mean, you can see the state of the board. HanterArch had that beautiful board earlier in the game, but because of the time that it takes to set up, because Croc AI was able to hit that all-important turn 10, Karma was on board. Karma gets free turns. Karma also gets to heal for 10 HP off of 1 star shaping, and then refill mana, and obliterate your units with a 0 mana spell, and also clear your entire board with that spell, because it's dealing 1 to every. Just disappeared. You didn't have a board anymore. It's well, I don't want to, like I said, it was a foregone conclusion. I don't want to talk negatively, but really, like, this isn't a very easily winning fight. Gruesome Theater's thrown out as well, just to throw, I guess, a little bit more insult to injury. You can replay that Force Chief if you want, but it's not going to be staying on board for very long. It's not going to be doing a whole lot more. I lost my camera.
Ooh.
I'm gone. Yeah.
You get it back. No worries. Wow. I mean, you said it all, Kai. We saw the power of Karma set. I mean, specifically with Targon, right? We saw such a good board from in terms of Jace Heimer, but like at that point, we simply had the answers. We were able to stall. We were able to heal. Mind you, both players had gone down to near to 1 HP. But it didn't matter at the basically at the end of the day, it just didn't matter. I think maybe the only out would have been what I want to say Albus Pharaohs. You know, you hit the Nexus directly, then at that point you would need to deny a silence prior to Albus swinging, or you're essentially dead. Now right here in this game, we already have HanterArch running it back with the Heimer Jace, and we have Croc AI running Demacian Aatrox. I like this deck. I have been running the Aatrox deck on ladder. I've been liking that and Alawi. I think they're really fun, especially if you're able to get the Cataclysm combos. Now, what do you think some of the cards are that you have to look out for in the Aatrox deck, Kai? Because my personal opinion is I think the most probably devastating combo would be Ranger Knight Cultist into the Darkened Heart. That's already what, 6 damage onto a scout unit, and if you have no blocker or way to answer, you're basically guaranteed to take 12, and that's devastating on turn 4.
I think another thing that has gone, even though the hype around it was absolutely massive when the card came out, the card that we forget about quite frequently is blocking Badger Bear. Now, the reason why blocking Badger Bear is so good for Demacia, specifically in this matchup, is because Jace Heimer, a lot of its damage comes through in those, what was it? The Floor Wrecker, the Drill, the 6/1, the Elusive card. You guys know what I'm talking about. But basically, that is a free little blocker, the 4/4, that can punch up into any sort of stat buff that the Jace Heimer list is able to throw out. Because even if you have that triple Hextech Handler, to buff up the 6-mana elusive, you're still able to block it with blocking Badger Bear. It is a threat. It is a absolute powerhouse. And speaking of being a powerhouse, here it comes swinging in with a tumble and a Darken Harp on top of it. This is forcing HanterArch into the corner at this very moment.
Wow, I mean, what the this 4 HP stat line is so hard to deal with too, especially since we haven't cast any call spells yet. Like we still have a regular little robot at 3/2. Mind you, we do have Vengeance, so that's gonna be good. In Demacia, you don't really have to worry about spell shields unless we're seeing a Harasi come down on turn 8 or sooner if you manage to get Aatrox leveled up. Just offering the pass, want to see what our opponent does. Okay, playing equipment. Because I think something to note is that I think Aatrox Vayne kind of suffers the same fate as Elites, where, you know, you're playing your hand out and you're kind of, I want to say down to 2-3 cards by turn 4, turn 5, because you want to really get all those units out there. And you don't really have any draw power either, right? Not until Elite turn 8 or after Aatrox level up, where you can finally get the Darken Harp, Darken unit down. But other than that, we're kind of just working with whatever cards that come forth. Both players passing. We do have Heimerdinger. We can put Heimerdinger down, and then we can pair it to get a nice Vengeance down to whatever unit comes out. And that unit that comes out is going to be all Croc AI's mana. We have to really make a decision here of what we're going to do.
Our options for Croc AI are not that great. We play
Harasi.
The Harasi. I like the Harasi play.
Yeah.
You get the spell shield, you can then pass that off to another unit if you so choose. Not enough mana right now to be playing it, but you can equip Harasi with the Darken Harp, which might be the option that Croc AI goes for.
I can see it.
9
So we'll get everything.
Actually, you could even make a couple of things you could play. Ranger Knight Defector is the first thing played, though. Mostly just to see if we can find out what HanterArch is running. And HanterArch throws out 8 mana to deal with this Harasi. There's a lot of commitment going through here. There we see, there's the 6 mana elusive now in Hanter's hands. I was actually peering over at some statistics over. I feel like this is my catchphrase at this point. I looked up some stats. It's like, oh yeah, sure. No, that's a big surprise. But stat-wise, this is a 60% win rate for Aatrox. Heimer Jace actually does have a lot of troubles blocking into it, and that is because of the way that Aatrox is able to continue striking with all of its Darken units. But that is a 60% win rate. There still is always, like I've said in last week's tournament, that 40% chance that, you know, Jace Heimer deck wins, and we might be getting somewhere along those lines. However, really big swings coming out right now with the scout attack. Hanter is down to 10 HP, holding that elusive in hand to try and avoid any sort of prevent a cataclysm or the challenger that we saw a second ago.
Oh, okay.
Considering trading Quinn, excuse me. Considering trading
like
the Quinn in exchange for more damage.
You saw hesitation there from Croc AI, right? Because in some circumstances you want to just swing with other units so that you can maybe eventually up to the Quinn level up. In this case, your opponent's so low, it's way more to go ahead and go for the damage. And here we even saw the strikes by the Bing Strike Hero coming out to get rid of another unit. Level up Jay's about to come through. We do have draw available, so it is possible that we can draw into the rest of our deck, maybe find some other answers to end the game. There it goes.
Nothing beats field testing.
I feel like once you have Jace down, you're pretty much in
The main deck Condemn is quite incredible.
I have mixed feelings about it because I like fish fight and I like single combat, but I can totally see the reason for it. You know, you have scout units, you're definitely gonna attack twice, you know, more than once in some of the rounds. So it's like, okay, you know what, I can maybe run it as a one of and be okay, you know, to use sometime in the future. Because I mean, a 1-mana strike a unit and I don't get hit back, can't deny that's good, you know.
It's pretty decent. Hanter also not going at all for face with that shock blast. instead deciding to try and remove the units and force a non-block. 8 damage instead being traded off here for Croc AI. Wanting to keep this Anaka on board because, like you said earlier, it does run into the same problem that Elites does quite frequently, where you don't have units. Instead, you have to, or you don't have draw. So instead, using the Anaka to try and draw a unit, and that is exactly what's done here. We find the Steadfast Token, not exactly the unit that you want to be playing into. And Heimer, all the champions are here. Heimer is found. Ferris is found. Hunter is set for their late game right now. And Croc AI's answers are not impossible. You still have the Styratu here.
Okay, it's coming through.
Draws the Aatrox.
This is so tough. This is so tough. I mean, I can see us playing Heimerdinger now. Your opponent only has 4 mana. Yeah, sure, Strike Sparkle comes through, but they have to either deal with Heimer or Jace, and I want to say Jace is probably the scarier option in this case. But oof.
Is that a miss pass?
A miss pass?
We still had the mana to play. We might have been worried about Cataclysm. Yeah. I wasn't counting Croc AI's mana. But here's the double shock blast, by the way. Here's more elusive units for Croc AI to deal with.
Isn't it funny that Eddie,
like, you need to deal with that now?
Yeah, you have to. Like, look at this. Any deck that we've seen that is being played in tournaments or it's up there has to deal with elusives in some way, shape, or form. If it says I cannot be blocked or I need a special someone to block me, you know what? We're putting in the deck and we see the surrender come through. We're going to go to a game 3.
Yep. That will be a game 3.
Wow.
And there's that 40% I was talking about earlier. Now, because I've seen elusives win me a game in another archetype, I'm going to go to Reddit and I'm going to talk about it very angrily. No, that's not the Reddit post. But no, elusives have been a pretty strong staple mechanic in the game for a long time now, because they are. When I was writing a guide for Legends of Runeterra, which I may or may not post at some point in the future, they're
Teacher Kai.
one of the things. One of the ways that I used to describe elusive and overwhelm and fearsome is that they are the sneaky keywords. You are kind of sneaking around your opponent and trying to get in for that extra nexus damage. And that is what elusive has done very well ever since the beginning of time. You have, even back in the beta phase, you had Ionia be a really dominant archetype up until, I would say, a lot of the stats got nerfed, of course. Up until maybe Demacia had better interaction, sharp sight, strike spells, etc. And we're still seeing that being used to maximum efficacy to this day. The HanterArch does a little bit of a turn to the left and says, instead of going with Jace, Heimer, and elusives, I am now going to be hitting you with darkness. Classic Senna Vagar Darkness with Stilted Roadmaker as well. This is a card that we have
out of three of, mind you. Well, we have Stilted Roadmaker, one of Soul Harvest, one of Wallop. We do have a one of Ruination. Ruination is really good of dealing, I want to say, with these really big late game Aatrox boards. If you have all of the Darken out, but maybe not Harasi that has Spell Shield, you are going to be able to get a clean Ruination. In this sense, with Darkness, all we're really looking to do is put Vagar on the field, let that Darkness stack. We're going to find Twisted Catalyzer the next few turns to start getting those hits in. Something that I do notice in this Darkness deck, we are not running Mist Call. I personally have a bias towards Mist Call because I feel like anytime Vagar comes on the field, everyone is like, no, that Yordle needs to go. It's time for him to die right this instant, no hesitation. I'm not even thinking twice about it. And having a revival for your champion is just it's a really nice counter. Regardless of that fact, though, we do have a lot of control options available to us, and we will be able to continue forward the game. I want to say that this is in favor of Aatrox Fane, no, because we have the Cataclysms, the Rallies, and the Scout units.
I'll be honest with you, it's really hard to tell. I know that with Vagar Nora, it definitely goes in the favor of anything with equipment, because even if you remove the unit, you still have that equipment stats to play onto the next unit that you have in deck, and sometimes those equipments can become units that are hard to remove anyway. With the Vagar Senna, though, it has not been played a whole lot this season. In fact, some of the more like high frequency matchups that I'm looking at right now on my second monitor, Runeterra AR, the highest real matchup that it's had has been Ashe LeBlanc at 202 matches against specifically Veigar Son of Darkness.
Okay.
And Ashe LeBlanc is a 50-50 matchup for Veigar Son of Darkness anyway. Otherwise, a lot of the other decks that we're seeing across the board and played against it have less than 50 overall. People are not playing Senna with Veigar right now. And Veigar Nora was bad into Aatrox, but does Senna change that? That is the ultimate question here. Sure, you can trade a lot of the units down.
I don't know. I don't even know if Senna changes anything, right? Because regardless of despite Senna, like I do think Senna is strong. Once you're able to get some darkness pumped up and she's swinging, and like let's say you have darkness discounted, you know you keep consistently producing darkness, you can really start taking over the board. But against a deck with A, Scout, B, ToF, C, Geralt. You know, Geralt is such a powerful card, especially given that when you're swinging, you're increasing the cost of all spells by 2. If, let's say, this was turn 6 and we went for an open swing, we'd be completely locked out of Vengeance. And in this sense, you know, Croc AI is at 20 HP, HanterArch is at 9. We need to be able to just, you know, live through the next few turns. And I'm not sure if we'll be able to have that luxury. We do have the HanterArch Sentinel. I'm going to give us that 4 lifesteal. Actually, 3, I believe, if it's dragged with Geralt. We'll have to see where this drag is gonna go. Okay, dragging the 3-4. Want to make
sure has to drag all the way at the end to guarantee the damage. So it's slight ordering, but I think this could be not. I'm not gonna say the L word. Oh, this is interesting.
Huh.
I think Croc AI knows it's not lethal.
Yeah.
Because with this swing. Well, not even pulling the HanterArch Sentinel out of the way, knowing that you're better served trying to remove a different unit right now. Because Geralt doesn't kill the Sentinel. So then you get the heal off. They still block with the 3-4. And you're out of luck anyway. Not exactly lethal yet. HanterArch holding on by a thread in this final third match. We did talk a lot about the theory going into this, but when it comes to execution right now, HanterArch is a little bit behind their opponent's board. But I feel like they are just one turn away from winning this match. There is a Cataclysm in hand. It could be right now, and it is. It will still the Roadmaker so playing on the scout unit to give the rally. This is going to be. It's going to be.
Here we go.
Dangerous, to say the least. The Challenger unit is good though.
Because I mean, it's this tough keyword, and like something else to note that like actually might catch some people by surprise is that remember that ToF reduces the damage by 1, so you actually need to get Veigar. I want to say to 5 to be able to level up off of 3 hits with darkness. Because remember, it'll only be ToF reduces the damage by 1. I know I've been in a game where I was like just short 1 of leveling Veigar because of the ToF unit, and I was just like, son of a, like, I need to hit something that's not this ToF unit right now.
The absolute cajones on Hunter right now. So I don't know if you saw what happened.
No, that swing?
But HanterArch Sentinel was on board. Croc AI equipped their Ranger Knight Defector with the quick attack, the Darken Harp, to try and guarantee the kill onto the HanterArch Sentinel. And then used Cataclysm. Hunter had Glimpse Beyond to deny the Cataclysm, keep themselves alive for 1 more turn. Now, unfortunately, is Hunter's attacking turn, so this does mean that they will be losing a lot of their resources left available. But Veigar's on board. Perilous Pastry is here. This darkness is large, maybe not quite in charge, but it will be doing some significant damage. Also, Croc AI just now dropping the Aatrox on the board. World Ender. Here's Drag Spell is so clutch, but it's not going to get the heal. And thanks to Tilted Roadmaker being in this deck, Darkness costs 1 mana. The draw is done here.
This is GG.
It's too many stats.
It
too
is
big.
GG.
Too big of the board.
AI takes it. That was a tough matchup. That was definitely a tough matchup. Like, we saw just in the previous match against Heimer Jace how Heimer Jace was able to take control of the board despite the scout, despite the stuff. In this scenario, right, and something that Darkness kind of just has trouble with when you're not running Nora is that you don't really have blockers, right? And a lot of your units are a little bit on the expensive side, right? We have maybe 2 units that are maybe at 2.
Lost connection. Are you still here?
He's still here.
I'm not here. I'm here. Hello, hi, I'm back. No, don't worry.
Units to have that, you know, at 2
I have
mana.
returned. I went into the ether. Is my camera still frozen? No, I'm good.
No, you're
Okay,
good.
cool.
You're good. You're good. We're having a little bit of
about that.
connection, but the internet is the internet, and we know how it is. But anyway,
Yeah.
so
I'm hoping to move soon. For anyone who cares.
shoot, hopefully, if you move, we maybe get that internet. I know I'm about to shoot. The way that Optimum does not work out for me, I'm just like, oh my god, I got Ethernet and everything. I'm just like, Lord, if you don't stop, if y'all take control of your company real quick,
Oh, help me, God.
help me. But anywho, so with the Darkness deck, if you're not really nowhere, you don't really have the chump blockers, right? Portals are able to get you these chump blockers that may be able to get through these scout attacks. But with the center variant, you have units that are a little bit high cost. You have a 5 cost unit, 6 cost unit, 4 cost with still to Roadmaker, and then everything else as slow as what? You know, the catalyst, the draw, the ceaseless sentry. But other than that, it's just like it's a bit tough. And once you start getting like keywords like tough on the board, it's like, oh shoot, all of these pings that I'm running suddenly are meaningless because unless I can increase the damage up on my pings, I can't do a thing. I can't do a dang thing.
Mm-hmm.
And draw, I believe what? Because normally I run draw as a 1 of. I want to see what Croc AI runs draw as a 2 of. Okay, I like that. I like that, especially if you're fighting in this meta where you're fighting Karma set, or you're even fighting BB like the Seraphine Jack decks. Being able to increase the cost of spells can really ruin their combos.
Something that we've seen really frequently in this meta as well, or I guess just as a general purpose, is that Cataclysm decks are the ones that you bring if you want to beat control. Hunter was running a very control heavy lineup. Actually, we saw 2 of their decks. What was their third deck? Was was Galio Udyr, which I guess is kind of slow. But the other 2 are control decks, and so when you have Croc.
No, Kai, return. No. All right, but I'm gonna go ahead and say what Kai is possibly gonna say. When you're running 2 control decks and you have a Demacian deck that is running Cataclysm like Aatrox Twin Vein, you are gonna go ahead and ban a deck like Galio Udyr because I mean it has the stats to maybe trade into some of the other units, especially if they're formidable. You have a better chance of fighting the control decks that have to spend so much mana to deal with the unit in a turn, right? Let's say on turn 4 you're having to deal with the scout unit. That's a whole 6 mana if you want to vengeance it, and it's really gonna put a lot of these other decks behind. We are gonna go ahead and get ready for the next match. Let's go ahead and let's check in real quick. All right, very quick. So we're gonna go ahead and wait for samsans and LOR to start. Let's go ahead and run through their decks real quick. Oh, we already won? Oh shoot, we out. Welcome back, Kai.
Hi, I'm back. I think
We have returned.
Woo! Awesome, cool, sick. This is what we love to see. Yeah.
I was just mentioning.
I was talking about like control killers, but it doesn't matter.
I did it for you.
Thank you.
I was like, you know what? Here's what Kai's gonna say. Gotta control Cataclysm, the Bastia win.
Yep. That's just how it goes. And that's because the way that control decks work, you have specific units you want to keep on board at all times. Demacia says you can't keep them. So it doesn't really work out in your favor too well, which is why I hate Demacia, because I want to keep my units, darn you. But that's my own personal bias. It does not really matter. So samsans, we've been told by our TOs that samsans won their match against LOR 2-1, which means that they'll be going up against Tristiano in this following round. And that means that we have the winner of Vrado and Void. Once I reset my bracket here, was Void. Wow.
Void took out our very first champion. Listen, Vrado was it worked last tournament. They came in this tournament. They are an exceptional player. I love seeing them play. It seems that Void has taken them out, and it seems to be a contender to be the next Runeterra champion. Let's
It's
see.
quite something. Croc AI as well. I really like Croc's list because it honestly is, hey, ban Karma set so that I can beat everything else. I mean, not bringing the Samira Leona, but that is kind of the theory I think behind their lineup specifically. You bring in Karma set as the bait, and then Maokai Nautilus and Aatrox Vayne. It's like, okay, do you want the mirror matchup or do you want the bad matchup? It's not good for anyone running a very control heavy lineup specifically, and I think that's really quite clever actually for Croc AI to be bringing it here.
Most definitely, because I mean, when you're coming into a tournament, right, or even like let's say you're engaging in the opens or you're engaging in the gauntlets, the best of 3 ones, you have to take in consideration. Okay, when I am building a best of 3 lineup, what decks am I considering in meta? You know, what do I want to beat? What do I want to ban? How do the decks that I'm bringing pair out? Right? If you're bringing, let's say, 2 decks that do really well into Samira Fizz, but then 1 deck that does not, it's like, okay, this is all right. I can maybe allow myself to get away from banning Fizz Samira and let other and ban something else that might be a little bit more troublesome. But you have to be mindful not to maybe mix and match too much. Cause let's say you're bringing aggro, control, and a mid-range deck. Now you're like, okay, I'm well-rounded in the sense that, yeah, I can, have a chance to kind of face whatever I have to face, but you might be putting yourself at a detriment if you're unable to get some good bans, or you run into a matchup that is like, hey, I am targeting like 2 out of the 3 decks that you're bringing. And I think it's a theory crafting for decks. At least I can't see that I'm good at it. I look at stuff, I'm just like, hey, I like this. I kind of want to bring it regardless of not if it's going to do good. But it definitely is a skill that as tournament players, you have to kind of just learn and hone and practice.
Yeah. I think you also have to there are people who are obviously going to be bringing like the best in slot decks, right? You have the ones that are going to be, you know what, I'm going to do Fizz Samira, I'm going to do Karma Set, and I'm going to do Ashley Block, because those are just the 3 best decks overall. And so when you have this sort of combination going together, you have to think, okay, well, what do I want to ban, and what are some things that these decks do similarly? And from what I can tell, Fizz Samira and Ashley Block both really struggle into Piltover removal lists. So then you just ban Karma Set, you bring something like Caitlyn Annie, or you even bring J4 Alawi. Well, no, that would be bait into Ashley Block. Never mind. But you can bring these sort of heavy like Piltover or even Noxus combo removal lists that can beat these other 2 decks. So I think that might be something that you can try to strategize for as well, is like, hey, how do I beat the best decks right now? What is a lineup that I can do that does this thing similarly? And then bring a third that you just kind of comfortable with, really. For myself, when I before the whole turnover of the format to Eternal and Standard and everything, I played in one tournament. I played Ziggs Talia, Jax Ornn, and Jace Lux. And these were just like some very solid combo mid-range lists that would struggle against more aggressively slanted decks, I guess you could say. Like decks that would just look to take advantage of the board earlier. Even though I had the removal, the landmark and the spell synergy and the need to get very tall units with equipment did set me back against those. So that was what I tried to ban in that tournament. And so sometimes you can go with 3 decks that you're comfortable with and then see what's common in between them. It really just all depends on how you feel about it. But enough of what I think. Samsans is bringing his crazy person.
What do we call it? What do we call it? I mean, we've looked at the deck list, right? This is a Bandle City Targon, Bilgewater Targon variant that is essentially, I want to say, a Shelly deck, but it also has Generous Gemcrafter, so it's kind of like, hey, I want to buff everything that I have with elusives. We're not running Sudden Surge. We do have a 1-of Moonlight Affliction, though, which is spicy. Basically saying, hey, I have elusives that you can't block, but just in case you can block, I'm just going to silence you so you can't block real quick. But it's looking good. Now in this matchup, I feel like if you're running this kind of deck into deep, you really need your cards. Like you need to make sure you not necessarily make sure, but you need to hope that your combo pieces are going to be flowing into your hand. Because when you're playing against deep, as you are on a timer. The tossing that is happening, the obliteration of the cards is not just for a show. We are contributing to us going deep, which is going to increase the stats of our units, and we're contributing to most of all the Maokai level up. If we're able to get Maokai level up, it is going to completely obliterate the deck.
Darkness hides.
And we already see it here. Look at this. Hold on. What does Shepard do? I need to read this. When you play a spell, grants a random ally in hand 1/1. Okay. Okay.
So you're trying to buff up a bunch of elusive units in hand.
Yeah.
I don't know why, but like the first thing that came to mind looking at Samsan's list is the Yankee with no brim, the Zoe Nami with no champs. Like that's exactly what
this
deck
kind of is. It kind of is. Because you are running the.
You're trying to
continue.
Oh, you're trying to run a bunch of elusives and a bunch of spells that keep you low to the ground. And from what I remember historically with the way that Deep operates, Deep had a really tough time against classic TF Nami. And that's because outside of the Abyssal Eye, they typically don't have a lot of really good answers for elusives. Okay, and also the Jawl Hunters, but that's besides the point. You don't really have great answers for the elusive units that you have on board because they're just able to go around things. What do you do with this tiny little, 0 mana burble fish that has suddenly grown up to be this world ender threat? Do you throw a vengeance at it? I mean, kind of have to, but then after a while, it's like, I've just traded 0 mana and an extra card for a 6 mana vengeance spell that can also be counteracted by a lot of things you can bring in Targon. For example, one of my favorite cards in Targon right now is the Expanse's Protection, as terrible as it is to say.
It's a good card though.
But it's just
it turns into a 2 mana spell shield if you equip. It's incredible, especially in a meta where like there are some spell slinging decks out there. If a good clean spell shield could very well win you the game. Look at this. We're already at deep. We have 15 cards left. We have Lunari and the Gemcrafter down. We have Shelly in hand. Only Harazi, and we can't play Harazi for another 2 turns. So on our attack, our defense token, we'll be able to play Harazi. I wonder if we can kind of win this, but it's tough. Because now at the point, now that everything's deep, all of these units are below the HP threshold to get eaten by the Devour of the Veps, which is going to obliterate them. Any of these units have equipment on them, or if the equipment is thrown on and then the Devour Cups come out, it will obliterate it. There goes Shelly.
There goes Shelly, but it's not going to go without a fight. Imagine that we're going to use some spells here.
Temperamental as moonlight.
We do use the warning shot into the Dust Petal Dust to make sure that we guarantee that stat buff across the board. But now, this is the scenario again where the underdog deck actually pulling some pretty good punches here. Samsans gets 10 damage in, but the equipment is destroyed. So
that's what Harazi down.
One of these lodestones.
Play a second one. No worries.
Oh, that's interesting.
That's level up. We are seeing Maokai leveled up. This deck is about to be obliterated. We better hope that the last 4/3 cards are exactly what we need. Because if not, we are getting closer and closer to Nautilus and the other sea monsters coming out. Look at this. It's 11 damage.
Problem. It is 11 damage. Before if it will be blocked. No cards in hand for Samsans, so Trustiano knows that they're safe from Pale Cascade, for example.
Look at this. I mean, we typically win one swing, but we're not gonna get it. I don't think we're gonna get it at all. Especially with Devour. I feel like you just Devour and then that's game. What are they gonna do?
Gemcrafter may be on board, but you don't have any spells to follow up to buff this Esmus either.
Wait, oh my
Devourer
gosh.
kills.
Esmus and Harazi.
Oh.
You just have to live.
Well,
I don't know if we can though.
I mean, you
can't. We get dragged over. We have to play a unit to block. And even then, I don't think it's enough. That's what, 7, 5. Yeah, I think it's lethal no matter what, even if you do play a unit.
7 and 5, but you have a challenger unit, so you're.
Yep, there it goes. Game 1. I'm gonna go ahead and go over to Trust. Now, to my knowledge, Kai, these kind of elusive decks, you know, for example, whether it be the Nami Shelly or it be the Zoe Timo, or even this variant that samsans is bringing, which is the I keep saying Bandle. Bilgewater Targon with no champions. These kinds of elusive decks do really well into, I want to say, control decks. Welcome back, Kai.
Mm-hmm.
And
Hi, I'm back. No, don't worry about it.
you heard me, right? I'm not sure if you heard me.
I did hear you say that these swarm strategies are pretty good into control decks because they're
the elusive swarm
slower to
strategies.
set up.
You know what I just remembered? Do you remember the Poros? The elusive
I
Poros?
do remember.
Oh my gosh, that deck was my nightmare when I was playing Anivia.
Right. Yeah. Big stats. You can't really kill it right away. Funny enough, the best counter strategy to that deck was like a Pantheon deck.
What? For real?
Yeah. I
No
remember
way.
that, yeah.
Okay, shoot.
Yeah, because you would play the blinded mystic.
Oh yes.
Silence those units, and you're like, okay, well now block these stats so I'm swinging back at you with Pantheon. So you would both necessitate blocks for elusive units, which they hate doing, and you would silence their elusive so that they couldn't hit you for free. It was a pretty good trade overall. That was a very strange period of time. I don't even remember.
It really was.
Maybe it was Pantheon Yumi.
No, I think it was. I think you're right. Pantheon Yumi was Demacia, and that's when we had Zenith the Blade was at its peak, right? Because it was a permanent grant a unit over them, and you just slap that onto the Faded Dragon, and you'd be good to go. Back in game, we already see Trust playing our trusty Malphite Talia. This has been a deck that has been played by quite a few players. One of them, the most notable player being Grandpa Roji, bringing it into tournaments and winning. And samsans is running back this elusive deck. I see we have double Harazi again. We do have Shelly on board, which I think is really nice. So we will be able to get that combo going, especially with these spells that we have in hand. The question is, will we be able to get back? Because I want to say that Malphite has the advantage in the sense that Malphite spell, at least on the attack token, will stun all the units. So if we're able to get at least up to that round, which will be round 7, we'll be able to stun everything and go in for a nice juicy swing. But just like any game, elusives and Shelly in particular puts you on a timer. We already see for a fact Shelly can get proc with these Nightfall Flowers. We haven't even played a single spell.
Pale Cascade is like the scariest sentence that anyone's ever uttered.
I like this spell. You don't see it often. Actually, I'm pulling this up right now because this caught me off guard one day. I played something. I was like, they have nothing. What are they gonna do? And then they hit me with Desert Duel. I was like, what is this? A strike spell in Shariba? But yes, Desert Duel is a given enemy -2 this round, and they both strike each other. A single combat that's a slow and a little bit more expensive than single combat, but hey, it does the job. Go ahead and block
I remember that card used to be run a lot in Action strategies when Action was really just running rampant with Sivir and everything.
No, I think even they
that
still
was really
run
the only
it
time
in,
you ever saw it. And so when you see these decks that are, oh, that's true. Yeah, I forget about Action Varus. I think
It's not
because
like
of all the
often.
new cards that we've had.
Yeah. I want to say that if anything that was being played, I think right now with Varus is Samira Varus. And I think it's, you know, as we had spoke about earlier when we were talking about the Samira, how Samira summons the flare, you know, when she's summoned, right? You get to take advantage of that flare, which gives you challenger, and you have a lot of quick attack units or just bigger units, you know, especially if you're running the Reforge package. Then you have these nice challengers that are able to get quick attack, and you simply swing in and get some good trades in. Now, something that I like in the Malphite deck is the Dragon Roost. Because if you get it off, you can now suddenly like just switch to being a dragon deck. And I like dragons, and I feel like I haven't seen dragons in a hot minute.
Imulus Vox is a... It's not a good unit. But if you're using it, you're using it more for the landmark, and when you get a 5/6 with Fury that creates more cards in hand anyway, it's kind of decent at that point. You're like, okay, well, it kind of adds up to be an all right card.
Look at
but
this.
in a vacuum, it's not a great card. Great quicksand, by the way, negating
Beautiful
so much
quicksand.
damage.
And like, I wonder if it was the right call
Esmus is
to
a 4.
play.
That's a big unit.
That is a big unit, right? We had to, not only did we have to proc quicksand, we had to proc We Stand Together, which we only have 1 copy of. Get the elusive back. That's 8 damage. We're on a timer though. We do have second quicksand in hand. I believe we are running it at a total 3, which is good, and we made it to round 7 with a leveled up Malphite.
Oh, here we go. Big Malphite swing. The unstoppable force will be detrimental to samsans' chances at survival. No spell shields in hand to prevent this from coming through either, so we know that this is going to be a very, very painful, if not lethal hit. The only way that you can really counteract anything that's happening on board right now from Shostiano is to play Harazi off of this swing. You play Harazi, you get the spell shield, you block the damage, or you block the unstoppable force, sure, but then you're down a darkened lodestone, and you're down that powerful attacker to guarantee a lethal later on. So, excuse me, I don't know why my voice is like deciding to disappear. This could still be
Make sure you drink water.
bad.
Stay hydrated.
I'm trying. I've been trying. Like in between, whenever I've been disconnecting, I've been trying to get hydrated, but.
Now I can. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and play Chum the Waters. Now, I got a question. What if? Hold up, I need to read this card. Because I'm like specifically looking at the Moonlight Affliction in our hand, because it says silence enemy units this round, and that silence can also take away stunned if need to. Mind you, that's not really great, because then we have to sacrifice both our elusive win cons. But I'm not sure if we really have the choice. It's like we either silence our own units or we die. At least maybe you can silence the 1/3, block 5 damage.
Yeah, it's your best option. You silence Burblefish and Coral Creatures, and then double block that way. Pale Cascade trying to look for something, doesn't see the silence on their own unit there. It's a very tough line.
It's a tough line to see because it's not something that's common. And the only reason I think I come across it was when with Frostbite, you can silence your own unit to get rid of the Frostbite. Don't remember what game I played that happened, but it happened. I was like, oh, that's an interaction. Okay, shoot. By all means, let me do this.
Yeah.
So but it is definitely a tough line to see, and even then, right? There can be arguments made not to do it, but it's tough. Either way, maybe doing it, you probably could have blocked and then played the Harazi next turn with maybe an elusive unit and then swung in. But that was a tough game, right? I feel like playing an elusive deck against Shurima, especially Shurima that has access to things like Sunburst, Celestial Water, Quicksand, Desert's Duel. It's really good interaction for a deck that's all it's really running. In terms of what interaction is, what one spell shield, and then a few buff spells that buff maybe by 1 or 2 HP.
Yeah, I'm gonna look up Moonlight Affliction real quick here. So I feel like
Oh, the
you
moonlight
can't.
portion would have messed it
You
up.
can't silence. You
You
can't silence
can't?
your own units. Okay, no, you
'Cause
can't.
it would make
It was an
them
idea.
unblock?
Like you can definitely
Okay.
do it with Hush, but it's only silence 2 enemy units this
Oh,
round.
it's
And
enemy?
then Nightfall they can't block. It's enemy. Yeah.
Ah, I could
So
have
it's
sworn that was
not. You
units.
couldn't silence. That'd be nuts if it
Unfortunate.
was, but no,
It
unfortunately
really
no.
would have. It really would have.
Even if you try to silence Chip there, Chip still hits you for 1, and that's
Yeah.
perfect lethal because they're taking 15 at 13
Mhm.
HP. So it's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah. I mean,
you
that's
know what?
not for you. If you're able
Close.
to get that combo out, stun locks the entire board in one go. I mean, technically, even so, I think what makes Malphite so vicious is that on summon you get the stun, right? So you get to stun either their biggest unit or whatever chump blocker that they might want to swing with, and then after the fact, sure, they get the chance to play something else, but you're just gonna use the champ spell right after. Be like, sure, okay, sure, you can play a unit. I'll just play a stun, and now I stun the entire board. Do you have another unit that you can answer me with? Now, mind you, Malphite Talia has lost, I want to say, a little its power, right? Because we no longer have the Absolver, which was able to give us that overwhelm so that we can go ahead and push through past jump blockers. But even then, I think it's still an incredibly strong deck.
It is, and it's been putting up a lot of decent numbers recently. Something else that the Malphite Talia shell lost in this last patch, outside of the Absolver, was Preservarium.
Yeah,
Giving it
true,
that
true to
extra draw power as well. But I think that having that lack of interaction, so to speak, just being a landmark deck that can go around everything else in the tournament or in the current format really does do quite a bit of numbers. We're
Yeah.
watching Croc AI up against Void at the moment.
Void.
Leona Samira up against that purple Karma set.
Hey.
This is a not good matchup for Karma set.
Actually, hold on, Kai. Slight
Leona
correction.
Samira is the highest counter.
It's actually not Leona Samira. Check it out. This is Diana Kale Leona. So they Void ended up omitting the Samira because they wanted to bring Fit Samira. So now they basically playing Celesbians, as this deck is called. Running the same package as Samira, but instead now it has Diana and Kale. But mind you, Samira is nice, but it's not necessarily needed. I think it's really Leona and the combos that we have with Break Deck is gonna get it popping. But regardless, this is basically the same deck.
Yeah.
Your attack is obvious.
For all intents and purposes, I'm gonna reset my Discord real quick. It's in a weird perpetual loading loop, so I will be right back.
Sounds like bam. Now, folks, right here we see Leona gonna go ahead and drag that Karma. Ooh, the full tag out onto the Leona. Protects the Leona. You don't necessarily, even though you could have tagged out the Karma instead, you do get to reset this Leona stats. Coming right back in. Only taking 3 damage this round. We want to try to make sure that we're taking as minimal damage. And we don't necessarily want to recall Karma. Karma can generate spells. And also, we don't necessarily want to spend that 5 mana, on the unit. We might want to just use spells instead. Void is drawing into Raravin, so we are going to be able to get the Daybreak combo going. Offering the pass.
Raravin is devastating. Really, I mean, Raravin, the power of Raravin is that it holds the entire Daybreak package together. Yes, you have these really well statted units and everything that can punch in and overwhelm your opponent and just go wide in general. Croc AI on 9 HP at the moment, but also on turn number 9, so with a Karma on board and no interaction available in Void's hand, this might be a win for Croc AI, surprisingly, even though the matchup is generally not favored. But Raravin, if Leona going on board on turn 5 wasn't already bad enough for a lot of decks, Raravin hitting board is even worse. It makes things so much more difficult, but here comes the Sunburst to try and answer that immediately. And now we're out of answers at the moment. Solaris
And we
Sunforger
don't-
is played, but it's not going to get that Daybreak effect anymore.
Yeah, not anymore. We don't even have to worry about any Pale Cascade or buff spells because of Sunburst's Daybreak ability,
Service with a
right?
smile.
It's just gonna silence the unit first and then deal the 6 damage. It was always a great answer versus decks that, you know, had, let's say, Tryndamere. You know, you'd be able to Sunburst the Tryndamere and suddenly Tryndamere's, you know, level up is meaningless.
Yep.
Ooh, okay.
Level up is meaningless.
I like this. It looks like we're considering the tag out. Are we gonna do it? Debating it. I can see the reasoning for doing the tag out right now. You can play the tag out and then you can replay
Our stuff's
the next turn. But that does put us behind by 1. Oh wow, it's taking the hit. Okay.
Void knows that they're at 20 HP, takes the 3 damage.
Mm-hmm.
And also was trying to trade a unit down, but Void needs to have the units on board in order to keep playing. So Croc AI will go for the tag out after. This is going to be a very powerful swing. Did Croc AI think that? No, never mind. They have the coins. They're not actually. They're not even saving the coin for the karma. They're going to be saving the coin for a little bit later when they're more available and ready to play it.
Yeah, I can see it.
Smooth
You
makes
wanna
all
try to get the heal
it
off?
heals for 3. It's a ridiculously good card.
Peace begins within.
Here we go. What about board?
First light illuminates the land.
Mixologist is just
Sun splendor
kindly tavern
reveals
keep on a stick. But, like,
Honestly, honestly,
in a lot of ways.
Listen, smooth mixologist puzzle not work. Listen, you got coin, I got news and booze. That's what she says. Ooh, look at this hush. Okay, set's coming through though, so that's gonna be another unit.
Set.
It was so
have-
important to be able to get rid of that Raravin.
spots.
This turn would have been the stun lock turn if we didn't have an answer for that.
Very easily could have played into the Solari Soldier to make this board even wider and keep stunning our units out. We do have that creative line you mentioned for last game, the hush onto your stunned unit to make sure it doesn't go down. Void trying their best to get a little bit of damage onto Karma. Lots of blocks available for Croc AI. Also available in hand, another tag out, and coins, and just kind of every other answer under the sun. So even though Void is trying to go for 5 damage here, it's not going to stick. In fact, it's going to be... Well, it's going to be 8 damage, but... Croc AI knows what this list is running. They know the Void just doesn't have the overhead at the moment, or generally won't have the overhead if they're swinging like they have been. If they're not threatening lethal now, better threaten it at some point. Ooh,
I
the
mean, we
desperation play.
are running a 3 of might, but even then, like we're at HP 8 HP. We're running where our opponent is Targon. It's rough, and we already see here, like you said, the desperation play. Void trying to go ahead and try to remove this karma.
It just ends up removing their own unit. Like, that's so
That hurts.
frustrating.
It hurts. And that's the power of the recalls. Ionia just has so many ways of just saying, no, I'm not gonna do this. And we get the set obliteration. There goes Leona.
Why don't you sit this
That's GG right there.
If Void down to 2 cards in hand, neither of them are exactly game winning for them. Oh hey, but
Raravin is
Raravin
nice.
is here,
nice.
but it's like, oh yeah,
Like,
when you're at turn 11 against set Karma, you can say like, oh yeah, Raravun's nice. Raravun, yeah, that's a nice card you have there. Too bad you've already lost. Like, you can't. There's
Oh,
two ways around
man.
it. And Void plays the Solari Soldier, fearing possibly a coin into a Sunburst to remove another Raravun. Hence the therefore limiting their ability to then go for more damage. On top of that, Croc AI does use the coin. It only refills for 2 mana. Pale
ooh,
Cascade,
okay.
popping up a lot of damage here.
Another obliterate.
And we have the Obliterate
He
available.
is just cycling through them.
Oh my gosh. I
Like, is it Ravoon into Leona into like a 1-drop or 2-drop daybreak? But even then, we don't have the draw for that. I don't think this deck runs draw at all aside from Pale Cascade. Pale Cascade's had a 2 of for this Leona deck. And that's something that you have to take into consideration when you're running like these aggro matchups. Even Elites, right? Elite struggles with the same thing. These kinds of aggro decks that are kind of like a little bit aggro mid-rangey, they don't have the draw power necessary to, once you get past that initial turn, that really big turn where they're going in for that swing, if you're able to survive past that point and you have other answers to kind of just stall out the game, whether or not it's chump blocking or it's removal, you know, stunning, whatever the case may be, then you can make it through. And it's like, okay, you know what? I made it past the scariest part of this aggro deck. I now I'm kind of gaining a little bit of traction and control. And if anything, a deck like Karma gives you those outs, especially if you're running Targon, because mind you, we're running Cosmic Youngling, one of the newest cards that are part of Targon that is so good against aggro, right? It literally says round start, heal me and your Nexus 1. If you're not dealing with that unit, that's just a heal. Like and sometimes that 1 HP, that 2 HP, it matters. There are so many games that come down to just missing 1 damage. Let's see what else we're working with.
Cosmic Youngling heals up for so much. Set Karma doesn't really seem to matter at this point in time. I mean, we haven't fallen Croc AI for a couple of matches at this point, but that's just because they've kept on winning with this brew. And it's quite incredible to see that even if you're in Piltover and Zon, or if you're in Targon, it doesn't make a difference. You're still able to pull off so much. You're allowed to get away with so much. You're allowed to print yourself a free churn. I have tried to play Set Karma before, and I felt terrible doing it because I did get good results. But it's like, man, I feel bad because I don't want to. It's such a good deck. It is so ridiculously good. Like, from my own anecdotal evidence and my own way of playing it, it's like I get to turn 10, I play Karma, and suddenly I have this funny little 1-mana coin card that gives me a free turn. I don't know what's up with that, but here we are, just proving time and time again that this combination has been very
actually powerful. Are we running? Yeah, we do have Place Your Bets. Place Your Bets is the 3 of. That's probably, I mean, that is the combo right there, right? It's the Karma plus Place Your Bets. Place Your Bets being the Ionian draw 2 and give me 2 coins. Those 2 coins when paired with Karma gives you 4 coins. And if you just keep on drawing and drawing and drawing into more Place Your Bets, shoot, theoretically you could have 3 or 4 turns if you draw the right way and you're managing your finances correctly. Managing the bar tips. But oh my gosh, is it so? It's a powerful deck, and we've seen it time and time and again. And even in the open that was featured, right? Some of the top decks were running what? Karma Set. And if it wasn't Karma Set, it was Seraphine BB, right? Another deck that also does run the coins. Mind you, it maybe isn't as powerful with coins as Karma, but you can still proc it with Seraphine. Right, Seraphine is kind of like your little mini Karma. Once you get her rolling, then you're suddenly doubling everything, and then it's like, I want to say maybe like a half a turn reset depending on how many coins you get. Usually you can get maybe like 4, or like, I mean, get 2, and then that gives you 4. And I want to say getting 3 coins or 4 coins prior the double up is always so good. That's a whole 6 mana. That's a whole 8 mana, and you can do a lot with that much mana.
Yeah, 8 mana, especially in Karma Set, which has a lot of, funny enough, relatively cheap cards for being a control deck. You really, your highest cost card is what? Set and maybe your Place Your Bets. So 5 mana kind of is where the top of your deck generally is. So 8 mana actually goes a long way because of how cheap the rest of your control cards are. And that was kind of the caveat that some other control decks ran into. Was, one, you're having to commit a lot of resources to a specific set of cards, and 2, your cards are generally pretty expensive. Do you really want to be spending 9 mana for that Ruination? Do you really want to be spending 6 mana in some cases for that Vengeance? Or would you rather spend 5 mana for this tag out that also creates 2 coins in hand to recall a unit that's threatening you on board, or have like Concussive Palm available for a stun? It doesn't matter if you are taking lethal or whatever, as long as you can just keep staving things off until you can swing back with the set on board that can then just point and click delete that unit. There are so many things that go well for set karma in this list, and I would not be surprised if in the variety patch that we see coming out next week that we see that list get tapped in some way.
I can see it. I
How that
wouldn't be surprised
is,
at
I'm not
all.
exactly sure. I haven't played enough of the deck to know. I just know that I'm like, oh, of course they have that card. But it's not like the cards that I'm playing against, aside from maybe Mixologist, I really haven't issue with before. Like Concussive Palm, sure, annoying. But Concussive Palm and Karma set, God, kill me now! Like it's a whole new level of BS.
Stop!
On top of
Doping
everything,
me
so.
with your extra turns and just kill me! Take me out already! Oh my god!
Annoyed me to death.
Oh, it's so funny. All right, so I believe we are going to be going into the finals match very soon. The finals match is going to be Croc AI versus Trustiano. Croc AI, again, is going to be running Karma Set Targon, Deep, and Aatrox Quinn Vane. Trustiano is going to be running... Where did it go? You got it, Kai, because my eyes...
Jace, and Rocks.
I can't see anything.
I got it. No, they're running Deep, Heimer, Jace, so
Okay.
also a Shadow Isle centric deck, but then Malphite Talia as their third deck. That Rocks landmark deck as well. So
interesting.
Matchup wise, oh man,
oh, what do you ban?
Do you want to take the Deep? Do you want to take the Deep mirror matchup? I mean, I would personally, I would always ban Karma Set in this matchup and then try to go. But then Heimer Jason to Aatrox Vane is bad, and then Maokai Nautilus into Aatrox Vane is also not all that great. And then you have Malphite Talia, but then it doesn't do well into these board-wise strategies. So it's for Trustiano, it's a very tough ban. I want to ban Karma Set because I'm annoyed by that deck, but also Aatrox Vane isn't like a very great set of circumstances for us either. And when I say us, I mean for Trustiano, for their lineup specifically. So it's like it's a bit of a coin toss. What do you think you're more reliably able to beat? I'd say I don't know.
I feel like
if I'm at this point, man.
If I'm in Trustiano's position, I think I'm gonna think, okay, what deck out of this lineup beats 2 of my decks? Right? Forget if it only beats 1. If it beats 1, okay, I got another one. But if something beats 2 or maybe all 3, that's the deck that I'm probably gonna want to go for. And although I would be inclined to beat Karma Set, I know Deep can beat it. And so can Talia Malphite, right? Because you can't really interact with the landmarks all too well. Tag out doesn't hit landmarks. It simply just hits units. True. So you will be able to get away with that. And even then, you still, you have your own stuns. You have your Right of Negation, right? The Shurima Deny doesn't just deny one spell, it denies all spells on the stack. So if Karma is playing anything that is not necessarily burst, but is fast speed, you'll be able to stop it. You have a chance at that. And even so, we do have some burst things that can, silence the Karma if we need to, silence and kill it. I want to say probably the only troublesome matchup is the Jace Heimer. If we don't really want to fight that into Karma. But I want to say the ban is Vane Quinn. And maybe we might have to just suck up the Deep Mirror. Oh gosh, that's so tough.
So what do you ban then if you're Croc AI on the reverse side? Or Croc... Wait, right? Yeah, sorry. I saw Void's lineup and I saw Fizz Samira. I was like, that Croc AI is not running Fizz Samira. I think... Because if you think that they're going to ban out the Karma Set, or no, the Aatrox Vane, excuse me, you want to ban the Malphite Talia, right?
Okay.
Or would it be the Deep deck? That is interesting.
Here's the thing, like the Jace Heimer deck. doesn't necessarily have Ruination, but it can find Ruination. So it's not like Ruination just isn't an option. We have a chance to deal with, you know, the Deep deck. And like, I mean, Deep tends to dump their, like, tries to, I want to say, like, win on 1 or 2 turns after they've gone deep. You know, you have all the sea monsters out, you have Nautilus out, you just go in for that swing. If we're able to, like, have that really hard removal to remove the Nautilus or remove any of these really big sea monsters, that we might be able to continuously survive, especially if we have the blockers. In terms of Celia Malphite, I want to say that, I mean, Deep can't really interact with that. These are landmarks. There's not many things in the game that do interact with landmarks. These landmarks pop off. Or even if we, like, let's say, like, whose turn 7 is better, right? You have Malphite coming down on turn 7. You have Nautilus coming down on turn 7. One of them stuns and the other does not. So if we have the attack token, this is kind of, it's a bit niche, right? It is taking into consideration who has the attack token. Right, because if Trustiano with Malphite, Celia has the attack token on round 7, and we has Malphite, they're gonna be able to go ahead and go for that swing. And then what do we really play? All of the sea monsters. If Nautilus isn't out and leveled, all of these sea monsters are incredibly expensive. And if you do want to play Nautilus, then I mean, it's simply gonna get stunned right after the fact. So, and then I mean, even then, hold on, let me read Malphite. I need to look at this real quick because Malphite only creates that card when I'm summoned. Well, you have the attack token. Okay, so Unstoppable Force only appears with the attack token, so that's the only time we're going to use it. So Malphite is a little bit weaker on defense. Mind you, can still stun something, and definitely is a hefty block with 10 HP. Going to be able to block any of the sea monsters. The only thing that could block into it and kill Malphite would be Nautilus, you know, himself. And I want to say it's really the scouts. Like, I feel like the scouts, the Cataclysm, you know, Vayne, being able to attack multiple times per round when all of your answers really are, you know, I'm only trying to use this one time and one time only, and then I want to go on to the next turn for more answers. I mean, we're going to see, because we're about to get into game. We have the Deep Mirror. Okay, I want to see. I need to see what the bans were. I'm so curious now.
Oh no.
The Deep.
Oh wow, Trustiano's hand is insane.
Wow.
I'm betting on Trustiano already. And that's just because Dreg Dredger's on 1 and then 2 is so much faster than what Croc AI has currently. I think I saw their hand there for a second at least, till the preview disappeared. And Trustiano's not even going to play the Dreg Dredders on 2. I think he wants to play yep, there it goes, the Lure of the Depths to pull out the Shipwreck Hoarder. So that's a guarantee little toss maneuver for us later into the game now. We lost him? No! Alright, well, is it just me? Am I still alive? Okay, cool. Yeah, it sounds like Elite, his computer has been acting up lately. So it's just me casting onto this now. Both these players are trying to go for their tosses as quickly as physically possible, and Trustiano has that double Dreg Dredger, like I mentioned a moment ago, the Lure of the Depths to then pull a Shipwreck Hoarder and guarantee that we have that unit in hand to then get the treasure. Now, I don't know about any of you back at home, but I have been blown out by Treasure Trove in the past. There was one time I was playing Jakku Deer on ladder, and my opponent played Treasure Trove. They pulled a Ruination from it. I played Jack again and played a stance swap. I was trying to do Ram stance into a swing with Jack. I was like, okay, cool. They won't really have the units to block this because typically the units aren't like all too big, right? And they play the 6/5 Elephant that can't be damaged by units with 4 or less power. So sometimes you can just hit the absolute nuts and you are the main character of Deep at that point. So I think that Trustiano has the capability of outplaying there. I also have a second hand because Elite, our caster, was also the one who was streaming as second hand to us. So I have no idea what Croc AI has. What they do have on board right now is the double Sea Scarab. Both of these players can be going deep, though I think that Trustiano is closer at the current point in time. You're 13 away from deep for Croc AI a second ago. Trustiano is going. They are deep. So now this pull onto the Abyssal Eye. You fell for the oldest trick in the book, Croc AI. The burst speed jettison to make sure that we get the toss into the deep. To then make sure that this Abyssal Eye doesn't die to the pull from the Jawl Hunters. But the return double jettison. Croc AI is deep again.
Oh my gosh. I am back. We are looking at a
back to back.
Listen, this is what deep looks like when you're in a mirror. It's we are tossing, and we're attempting to surprise our opponent with these tosses so that we can maybe get into these stats and then trade off. Oh, wow. Okay, here we go. Okay, I like the heavy metal, getting rid of the elusive. Look at our HP, like we're pretty healthy right now. We just really have to get wider than our opponent. I want to say that maybe Maokai will be able to provide that, right? Because if we get a level up Maokai, then we'd be able to get the challenger units and then maybe pull some things aside that can't block.
This is the ultimate Mexican standoff. Whoever plays Maokai first and gets to go deep first, or to level up that Maokai. Bless America. I think I'm disconnected. No, I'm still here. Cool. Sick. Awesome. Oh, yeah. Oh, are we there? Are we here? Are we gone? Are we
No,
I was just leveled up on board.
All right, so we already got a lot of us on board. We have 3 units to 2. So mind you, we are.
I keep seeing Elite pop in and out of existence. My up. It is terrible.
It's okay, Kai. I'm here. We're working. We're working through it together. Both opponents. Croc is down to 10 cards. Trust is down to 12.
You guys ever done the? Oh, sick. Oh, freaking awesome, dude.
We're all good, Kai. We're all good. Oh, we got the treasure! Maokai level up. Let's go. Okay. We're gonna go ahead and obliterate the deck, and now.
I didn't see any level ups anyways.
Hi, you're missing the Maokai level up. I will pray to the riot gods that they cure our internet.
That's my favorite part of Deep.
Your favorite part of Deep? It's everyone's favorite part of Deep. Going deep and leveling up our champions.
We're playing musical chairs with the casters right now.
We really are. We really
you
are.
Disappear, I disappear. I think the music just like turns off at random points, and that's oh, there I go. You know, like the cane reaches around and pulls me up.
now that we're both back.
Serious business.
For the amount of time that we believe that we're gonna be back for, because we don't know when the incidents decide to curse our souls at our lives. This is a tricky position, right? We have trust with both the treasures and the plate worms, right? But we have the 3 units on board, mind you, elusive of 7/7 and all this. We can play 2 more elusives if we want, and our Maokai is only 3 cards away from getting the return level up. And we have vengeance, so we have a control option available to us.
Yeah, be a good control option to keep it on board, and also we have the Devourer of the Depths. I'm losing it, man. We have the Devourer of the Depths to remove a unit. So even if we already had that control option inside of the Vengeance for Croc AI, the Devourer of the Depths also makes sure that this board for Trust is kept exclusively to the Plate Worm. With the triple Abyssal Eye on board, this is Deep's biggest nightmare. Oh, elusive units. No, my brother, I trusted you. And instead, it has ToF Trust, has betrayed the trust of Croc AI, or has had their trust betrayed by Croc AI, as we swing for 18 damage. Trust really wishing they had double vengeance here.
That's a fact. The way that we needed double vengeance, that's all we need. Now, If for whatever reason Croc decides not to open Swing and we get a chance to play the treasures, the way that I want to just see the treasures so badly, I want to see what we get. We're thinking.
Throw for content. Throw for content. Throw for
Not to throw for content. We're thinking. Do we want to see the treasures? Is Croc as curious about the treasures as we are? We're as curious. We get a vengeance in. Mind you, I actually do like this play because you do want to take into consideration. Let's say, because remember, the only thing that you do lose to would be double vengeance, and we know our opponent has 2 cards in hand that they have not played. So if you want to like absolutely secure the victory, we do want to make sure that we're accounting for whatever we might lose to, right? Especially if you can't recall what cards were being tossed. Mind you, you can look through the little sidebar and kind of look through it, but it is a little bit difficult once you have so many things going on. And game 1 is going to Croc. Go. All right. Now, both me and Kai are invisible currently. Don't be alarmed. We are testing out our new X-Men powers. We are gonna go ahead and get set up for the next game. The next round, I should say. Players are gonna go ahead and go through their ban phase. Now, we did see the Deep Mirror, so in that case, now the bans are most likely gonna be. Let's see what we got. It was Targon, Karma Set, and Heimerdinger Jace. So essentially kind of like the both of the control options that were kind of, you know, just put aside like, hey, we both don't want to deal with this, which is understandable. I can see banning the Karma Set. Heimerdinger Jace is interesting. I guess I do see the argument for it because it is able to simply out-control, you know, has the potential, I should say, to out-control Vayne Aatrox as well as Deep, right? If you're able to just simply have the removal for all of the units or even just the jump blockers, you can survive through and through. And go overhead if you need to with Albus First. But in this game, we are going to go ahead and deal with the Malphite Talia. Now, in this matchup, I want to say that...
Malphite Talia.
Yeah, talk to me, Kai.
I don't know what it is about Talia decks whenever I played them, but I always felt like I had a lot of trouble playing into Demacia specifically, because I like to have units on board. I like to be able to swing with my units when I want to. Oh no, I have to block because of rallies. I have to block because of strike spells and all these other, you know, extenuating circumstances, I guess you could say. And when you're able to then buff up all these units in Demacia, this is something I was saying earlier, but when you're able to buff up all these units inside of Demacia with the Darkened Spear as well in hand, you can do quite a bit of damage and also just out-trade a lot of whatever Trustiano wants to do with this deck. Really interesting predict there. Found a Talia, found the 3rd Malphite, and 1 other unit there, but I wasn't paying attention to what it was. So I don't think it mattered quite nearly as much as getting your champions onto this board and early. The Sentinel's on board.
Look at this.
Is that what it's called? I think it is. Yep, Blue Sentinel, I was right.
Yeah.
Sick.
It's a card you don't really see often, but it is nice. It does give you Crest of the Insight, which is get an extra mana gem this round. So it's not a permanent gem, it's just an extra one for that round. So that if you are able to get that on turn 4, you're able to bring out Talia turn early like this. Talia isn't level just yet. We're 1 landmark short, so all we will have to do is play 1 more, and we got that level up. We don't have any scout units for Croc, right? The power in this deck is with its scout units, being able to go in for these multiple attacks. Mind you, the Broadwing is still powerful, right? That is a whole 0-5 with Formidable. But now we're going to be able to go for that challenge off the rip. Hey, getting 1 drops.
Vayne is a very powerful card too.
Yeah,
So
definitely.
guaranteeing yourself more attacks, forcing out more blocks. Trustiano has to play a little bit on the back foot here. I saw a glimpse of the very end of that last match before I was pulled away to the void again. Was that a Croc AI win? Because I saw that it said your opponent is out of cards. That was so strange.
It probably also went into the Oh, yeah. Okay, so technically speaking, the answer is yes, because the victory occurred prior to the opponent running out of cards.
That is so weird.
Yeah, it basically did it in order. So because Trust died before Croc ran through their deck, they were A-okay. For a tie, it has to be like legitimately at the exact same time for it to proc the tie situation.
I see. Like in the same phase, if you both drop mushrooms. Kind of thing.
I think with mushrooms, if y'all are both drawing it at the same time, they like the same exact time, and like you're both hitting lethal at the same exact time for each other, I think that is a tie.
Okay.
Ties are really weird in this game. I think I've only tied with someone twice, and I'm pretty sure one of them was deep because they had their cards obliterated. I had no more cards left, and we were just like, all right, next.
I remember I built a very toxic mill deck in Eternal, unfortunately, because some of the cards that I played are just no longer available. Like Fallen Feline, Aloof Travelers, those have been rotated to Eternal. But I was playing against a friend and I decked him out, and I was one card ahead of him, and I had Ceaseless Sentry and a Mystic Shot. And so I decked myself out at the exact same time. Intentionally, just to like force a tie game. But point being that tie games are very infrequent in this game. There was one that we had as well in Mystic Shot podcast like a month and a half ago.
Yes.
If I stumble, I have the earth to catch me.
It was deep against I believe Swain.
It was Swain Nora. It was Swain Nora, and I believe it was actually I think it was Croc AI and Lunari, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, that's right.
I think it was.
Man.
We'd have to go back to that. That was a good game. That was crazy.
Classic match. Croc AI, the master of being able to pull out these draws for some reason. Apparently. And that was a strange tie. I think the reason why it also kind of sticks out in my mind is because of the way that Legends of Runeterra handled the tie was by giving a win to both players. And then because of that, we didn't see a game 3 because Croc was given the win to win 2-1. It was something strange along those lines.
Like a lot. That's what it sounds like. It sounds like a lot of math that I never want to hope to do. I want y'all to play your hearts out, tournament players, but don't you dare tie and mess up my bracket. Now, let me stop. And here we go, getting the Malphite down. We're about to see Rise attack token. I want to see if we do not. Okay, so this is more of a defensive stun going on to the Aatrox. We do have Broadway at a 0-2. We have 2 dragons coming out next turn for our swing, and mind you, we're gonna be able to stun the whole board. How do we deal with this? I think this is just lethal next round, or the potential for lethal, I should say.
I think what you have to start with is by trying to remove units. This is what Croc AI is going to do to take out the Clockling. You want to get those strikes as well to try and guarantee that you're going to be getting that World Ender down. But even then, you lose the Broadwing. What if Trustiano doesn't use the stun right away? What if there's something else that's developed? For example, the Earthbreaker that's in hand. That is a pretty potent combo right now.
Really,
so we are
with the 3-3.
I think we're swinging with a 3-3 because
okay,
I don't know, might as well try to clear another one of those Clocklings off the board. There's some pretty free blocks for Malphite here, and we're not even going to be taking the one with the vulnerable because we know that we can pull that out of the way with the Clockling next turn. So it's pretty close timer right now. Croc AI has to be able to find a unit to play on board in order to match the board that Trustiano has now.
Look at this. 8, 9, 10. We're short 1 mana of World Ender. We can only play 1 unit. That 1 unit gives us a block, a knockout. Okay. But we can strike. Doesn't. No, we stun. We have the Malphite stun. That should be GG. I think that's GG right there. Man. Wait, no, but we can also swing with a knockout to get another blocker or just to get another unit. But I don't think at that point.
Oh, we can if we. No, we can't because Naka was our. Wait. No, we don't have mana.
Oh, we don't have mana. Okay, we're short one mana. We're short one mana.
Yeah.
Potential to do that. More so potential. Yeah, we're fine.
None of us are done
that's
here.
a tricky matchup.
Slow. Very. Yeah.
But we see how Malphite like does well. Like once you get that Malphite going, it's leveled up. You're able to get these stuns against these mid-range boards that are trying to match you on board. It's just like, hey, I'm just gonna stun everything, you know. And with Vayne Aatrox, those units pre-level up for Aatrox are expensive. I think the lowest one is what, 6 mana, but that's Zolani, and everything else goes from 6 to 8 to 9. It's just like, whew. How can we play any units?
The cheapest is, funny enough, the cheapest is
Jarral. Yeah, Jarral
Yeah.
for 5. Yes. Jarral for 5. Then it's Zolani for 6.
Mm-hmm. And then Harazi for 8, and Anaka for 8, and Styratu for 8. And
who's 9? I don't think there's anyone 9. There might be.
I don't know.
You know what it
9?
is? Maybe Balklux might be 9, but if it's not Balklux, it's the Bilgewater one. I forget its name though.
Oh, Ibaros.
Yeah, I think it's Ibaros.
I don't know why I remember that one.
All right, but
It might have been from the time that I played. Oh, sorry.
No, I was gonna say you were right about the ban. We got Karma Set ban. The Karma Set ban and the Heimer Jace ban. I was interested to see the Heimer Jace, but I guess I can get it because it has a lot of control options. And mind you, I mean, aside from it being able to kind of be adaptable to any of the deck that it's facing, you know, and go overhead with Albus Pharaohs, I can see that as being one of the bans and just trying to tough it out with the Deep Mirror. Now, I believe
Pharaohs is a card that I feel goes under a lot of everything else that everyone else likes to do. It's a overwhelm card that doesn't have overwhelm. You look at it, and at a first glance, it's like, this is a quick attack unit. I can block this just fine. But that doesn't end up being the case a lot of the times because of how you don't expect the damage to come through. You're thinking, oh, you need combo pieces, but it's already doing 3 damage at base. And the combo pieces in and of themselves include things like formula, include things like production surge. So not only are you already getting a lot of value, one of those being a burst speed, but that's also just suddenly, okay, yeah, this whole board is wide, and my quick attack 6/5 unit is dealing 5 damage, 6 damage, stacks up so incredibly quickly, and even faster once you have leveled your Jace. So it's one of the cards that you don't think about much when you think about Jace Heimer, because Jace is really the star and he does all these flashy things on board. But Pharaohs is just, when he hits the board, you're like, oh yeah, right. Why wasn't I thinking about that card? It seems so incredibly obvious when it finally does come down, and it does so much for this deck.
Yeah, if I'm not mistaken, I'm pretty sure we are at the completion. I'm double checking to make sure that there is not a game 3. Let me see. Yes, we have finished. Trustiano has taken the win as the first place champion for the second Lancers Legends of Runeterra. They ended up 2-0ing Croc. And I mean, let's look at this lineup. Our closing thought. We have the. It seems like Deep is consistent all the time. Every tournament, not even just in hours, but in Mystic Shots, in Noximus, we see Deep make it all the way to the very end each and every time. And that very well may be why we see Deep brought in all of these lineups, right? It's consistent. It does what it needs to do. If you don't have answers from Maokai, say goodbye to your deck. I guess you're going to win. And we saw how each deck was expertly played, you know, the way that it needed to be played. And congrats to all of the players who played. Tristano
totally
as first place. We got Croc AI second. Croc AI had also a good run. And mind you, guess what? They also brought Deep.
Yeah.
Listen, the Sea Monsters are strong. If there's any player, if you're ever looking for a date and you need someone who's loyal, go talk to a D player. Don't always come to you. If it is indeed players, it's lurk players. If it isn't lurk players, it's Shariba players. Those are the the most loyal players in the Legends of Runeterra community. Those three.
And if you want to be surprised, date samsans. They'll bring champless Bilgewater Targon.
You want a surprise? You want a bit of adventure in your life?
What's really funny is that a little while ago, before the whole Eternal and everything, on our last Mystic Shot tournament that we did together, I remember that Heimer Jace and Jace Lux were the two most popular decks just because of how consistent they were. And then after Eternal format comes in, is rotated out, and the standard becomes the regular format for tournaments from that point forward, Heimer Jace is still one of the most popular decks. We of course, Ashla Blanc was the most